Well, hello internets, here we are. We have ourselves a little bit of a vlog per se. Well, as many of you know, there has been a lot of things going on in the world over the last year. Of course, this here vlog is being filmed in early spring of 2021. I'm not sure when it's going to go live, so it could be a year and a half by the time y'all see this here video. Or maybe I won't see it at all. All depends on how far things go, how far things escalate. Well, during the last year we've been through many ups and downs, many roller coasters, many things that have changed in our world. Some of the change has been done without our knowledge, without our permission per se. They've been forced upon us by those that we have put in charge or have been thrust upon, you know, saying they're in charge of our life and there's nothing that we really can do about it. We agreed to a simple 2-week slowdown well over a year ago, and they have took more than advantage of the 2-week slowdown to enact things that are not, well, right. And it doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. You know, they cancel Christmas, they cancel Easter, they cancel family get-togethers, they cancel music venues and things like parades and exhibitions and all that stuff. They cancel things that define us as a culture, define us as Canadians. They cancel Canada Day, cancel our fireworks, cancel things like that. They close all small mom and pop type businesses and keep large big box grocery chains, grocery stores and stuff open. You know, hardware stores they're closing, but the big hardware stores they allow to keep open. And all that does, it actually hurts our local economy, because it's those small mom and pop stores, the general stores, the small hardware stores that have been around for 60, 70 years that essentially are the backbone of the community, not these big box retail giants that really, when it comes down to it, don't really care about the town they're in. They don't really have roots in the town they're in. Sure, they might hire local staff to run their town or to run their stores. However, they pay the local staff the bare minimum as possible and really don't invest in those local staff's families or future, even though they pretend to. If you're wondering how come I know this, is I have worked for a lot of the big box stores, and no, they don't. They've made no difference in my life, no difference in my family. When I needed them the most, they were not there. Sure, they paid you a wage, but keep in mind, they pay you a wage, but they get it back eventually, because you end up paying taxes back on it. You end up spending your money quite often in the same place you work, because it's just simpler to buy groceries on the way home from work than it is to go to another retail location to buy groceries, and it's kind of like the cycle begins all over again. You know, we went to what they called step one way back in April, I believe, of 2020, and it was only supposed to be for a couple weeks, and they ended up keeping us in that that stage for a few months until I believe it was later June, maybe early June. I forget the exact date of 2020. There was still restrictions. There was still things in place, but they did release it slightly for July. And then I believe it was in September they went back to stage 2. You know, people really enjoyed their time when things were released. They got out and they enjoyed the beaches, they enjoyed camping, they enjoyed things, but then that was all took away once again for the fall. Now, people don't really do much in the winter per se, but there was still winter activities that were cancelled that were kind of becoming traditions that a lot of us attended to. And really, there was no reason for those winter activities to be cancelled because, well, I thought these magical face masks that people wore, which, were becoming mandatory in a lot of places, were supposed to magically prevent all of this from happening or spreading. However, it's almost like their magical face masks that they made us all wear made it spread even quicker than what it would have done if it would have just let us all be, and it would have been what it was. Well, here in the spring of 2021, there had been promises of things being released in March, I believe it was. And when things weren't released in March, some of the businesses here in Alberta had the strength to stand up for what was right, strength to stand up for what they believed in, strength to stand up to the tyranny that they were facing, and open their businesses. And of course, the COVID police, however you want to call them, came down on them with a ton of bricks. You know, slapped them with fines, fenced off their businesses, closed things down, hauled them into court. And these people stood up in front of court, and essentially their tickets and their fines and all that was thrown out of court, and they were allowed to reopen. And over the last couple of months, they have been open, they have been serving food, they have been serving customers. You know, they have been following proper sanitation procedures, just like they have been all along for the last, well, many years, of course. And believe me, if a single customer would have got sick in their restaurants or their bars or whatever it would have been, we would have definitely been here, have heard about it, and they definitely would have been shut down because, you know, the powers that be would have used that as any leverage to have, you know, dropped a ton of bricks on them. Well, here this spring, as we go back into stage 1 again, it's almost like the last year of our lives were basically wasted. Basically a trial period, basically a test to see what the government can get away with without receiving resistance or pushback from us people, us civilians. They're back into stage 1. They have forced closed churches, they have fenced off churches, they have arrested pastors and preachers and those that do not that refuse or resist to go with what they are trying to usher in. And the restaurants and stuff that stood strong and that are stood up to the system are still open. You know, so if they're trying to act in our best interest, wouldn't you think they would close these restaurants that were staying open? It's almost like these restaurants that stood up to them, they know that it's not worth fighting them again, so therefore they back away. So you'd think if this was some kind of extremely deadly, earth-changing, earth-wiping clean, killing everybody type of virus, they would force those restaurants to be closed. How come there's such big contradictions where they're fencing off and closing churches, but other religious establishments are allowed to stay open? How come certain restaurants are remaining closed where certain restaurants are allowed to stay open? How come retail stores are staying open but some have been forced to be closed? You know, the smaller businesses once again are being forced out, and the big box stores are being allowed to stay open. You can't buy certain items in person in a store, but you can sure go online and buy the very same items or similar items and have them shipped to the post office and then go out and get them, or shipped to your location. You know, if this spreads as quickly or as nasty as they're claiming it is, wouldn't you think having a box that was packed and touched and shipped by 3 or 4 different people before it reached you, would that spread things around even quicker than having one person go to their local retail store to buy a brand new coffee maker to replace the one that broke earlier this spring? I know myself, I've spent more money online in the last year than I have in local retail stores. You know, it's almost like they are slowly changing our society, slowly changing things, so taking away everything that we once enjoyed, everything that made us Canadians. They're slowly changing our world to be a faceless, cashless, you press a button, place your order, pay for it with, you know, your thumbprint or a barcode, or, you know, your chip they install or whatever, in the future, of course, not right away. And out pops your approved item, if you're on the approved list to get this said item, and away you go. This is starting to remind me of the beginnings of certain things in our past, certain things that, you know, our grandfathers, fathers, brothers, uncles fought to eliminate. Here we're allowing some of these things back into our lives without resistance, without questions, without compromise. And those that have the smarts to realize that something is happening, when we question what is going on, we're attacked by people, attack those online that doesn't fit the bigger picture that is being spread. You know, this is just what I feel, this is just what I've observed in the last few years. This is just what I see happening. You know, I'm not the only one. I see more and more people now online that are speaking up finally. People that are not afraid to stand up and say there's something wrong. However, many of the changes that have happened are irreversible now. Many of the things that have been put in place have been enacted now as laws and rules, and, well, you know, you can't really reverse them now, not without a complete change. You know, if people would have stood up and been able to have seen this coming, instead of being distracted by, you know, big shiny objects and the things that the parasites put in your way, then maybe the world would be a better place than what it is right now. Now I feel bad for the families, those that have lost loved ones, those that are sick. I feel bad for people that have lost their jobs, lost their businesses, lost things. But this needs to be a wake-up call for people to look around, for people to realize what's going on, for people not just to keep the cycle going of electing one politician, then re-electing another politician. and then getting mad and then re-electing the first politician because he promises something sparkly and shiny. When you're dealing with people who are not honest, who are not upfront, who use these fancy words and terminology in fine print, you have to think like they do. You have to think deception. You have to think potential fraud. You have to think, well, like a criminal, if you want to say it that way. Because if you think that they are just as honest as you are, and you allow those terms that they use to be translated in your terms and your meanings, then you will be surprised by what happens in the future, because their meanings and their terms for the very same words were opposite to what you thought they were going to be. And all these people who say it doesn't make a difference to vote, well, our last election was fairly close, and if those people who did not vote would have got off their couch, would have put down their little device, got off their couch and went and voted, then things would have been different this time around. However, once again, that is all part of the bigger picture. People will be so distracted by their devices that they will not be able to see what is coming until after it hits them. I remember my grandpa telling me stories of what he had to live through. And my grandpa come from a background, come from a time, come from a nationality, come from a history that lived it. It's not something he read in a book, something that was altered or taught to him in a school or told to him through secondhand knowledge. My grandpa lived a lot of stuff. And I never understood why my grandpa told me some of the things he did when I was young, when we were sitting in his cellar of the house cutting up potatoes for food and stuff. I never understood why, until many, many years later, when I start to see the very, very seeds, the very, very beginnings, the very, very things that I see that are happening now in our country, that were happening in his. They seem to be not teaching our new generation of things that happened in our past. They seem to be changing things that they do teach to suit a bigger narrative, whether it is toning things down so they're not so violent, or toning things down so they fit a bigger picture, or changing things slightly so they didn't happen that way, or completely not teaching them at all and pretending they didn't happen. Even when I was a kid, there was things we were taught in school that don't really pertain to the geographic location or the province that we live in. We learned about stuff that happened in the east of Canada. We learned a bunch of stuff like that. But we didn't learn what happened essentially in our own backyard. Some of the atrocities that were committed on Canadian soil to prisoners of war here in Canada. Some of the atrocities, some of the horrors that were committed to settlers that were pioneers that settled here looking for a better life, that happened to be from certain countries that Canada was at war at. I was never taught that. I've been doing a lot of digging, a lot of research for upcoming road trips, upcoming things, and I have dug up a lot of things of the past of Western Canada that kind of makes a person go, I really didn't know that we had those things in Canada. I didn't really know those things happened there. I thought they happened in the States, or I thought they happened in, Europe or Germany or whatever. I didn't realize those kind of things happened here. We're taught, or I was taught in school even that Canada was this beautiful, clean, whitewashed, pristine country, and we did kind of fight in the war, but it wasn't really our war, but yet, we had some of our men there just because we wanted to be a part of it. Well, I think things were a lot deeper and a lot dirtier and a lot more involved than what even my generation of kids were taught in school. I have no idea when things started to change, when things became irreversible or on the course they are now. But there was a generation of people that would fight tooth and nail for their country, for what they believed in. They would not compromise. They would not fall. They believed in what they believed in, and they would not roll over. And it seems nowadays everything that they fought so hard for is being piece by piece systematically dismantled and thrown away. And our new generation, we are allowing them to do it because we have forgotten what it was like to rebuild, to get out of that what happened with our grandparents and things like that. But it'll be interesting to see how the world changes even more in the next year, how deeper things go, how many more jobs are lost, how many more small businesses are lost, how many more lives are lost because of the systematically dismemberment of society. How much of the core of us will be changed. When you look at the numbers and you look at the stats, you look at how many people have died because of addiction, or died because of ending their lives, or died because of other numbers, and then you look at the big media, big numbers of what they're trying to push. There are things that don't really add up. If they put the amount of attention that they are putting in the current thing that they're putting attention into what was really important, the world would have been, or would be, a better place. However, there is big business in pretending to treat, pretending to deal with, pretending to do what they do, and that is why they do what they do. There are certain things of our past or recent past where they had a chance to fix things, but they chose not to, because it's big business to draw things out even further. A lot of people make money by pretending to fix things and not really fix it. A lot of people make money selling supplies to certain areas to pretend to fix things but not really fix them. And I believe that is what is clearly still going on today. Things will only change when there's enough of us that are brave enough, have enough intestinal fortitude to stand up for what is right. If you don't stand for what you believe in, you will fall for anything. And that is essentially what has been happening over the last few years. Whether you've liked this video or not, it is what it is. These are my thoughts. These are my ideas. Feel free to watch. Feel free to have clicked away. Go hide back in your little safe space, or wrap yourself in the bubble wrap and hope things will get better. But the systematically declining of society will keep going until things are allowed to change, until people have stood up enough to force the change themselves. And as always, thanks for watching. Maxwell's Vlogs. Comment, subscribe, and enjoy.